I'm Madeline Harvey. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. In our video, we're going to talk about how you can best listen to the sound of your voice without freaking out. So if you like today's video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up or click that subscribe button below. I would love to see you here more often. The video that you're about to see was taken as a clip from a live lesson that was shot earlier today. If you want to watch the entire live, then I invite you to click that join button below or the provided link below to become a member of this channel. As a member, you'll have exclusive access to all of our lives that we do every Monday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. So again, click that join button or provided link below. It's only $4.99 a month and your contribution helps to support our channel. That way we can continue to deliver awesome content for you. You ready to get started? Here we go. Hi everyone! Happy Monday. It's so very good to see you again. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and that your week is off to a great start. So we're just going to come in strong. We're going to go deep today and we're going to talk about how you can get to a place where you're not freaking out at listening to the sound of your own voice. Because being able to actually listen to the sound of your own voice and evaluate it or assess it is such a powerful and profound tool for you as a singer. But I probably get the most that people are like, no. I just want to do exercises and maybe one day I'll be able to listen to my voice and not cringe. But like any great skill, we have to develop it, which means we got to roll up our sleeves and really get into those things that we fear. So if anyone is on here that is new, welcome. We're very glad that you're here. We do these lives every Monday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, Nashville, Tennessee time. We hope that you'll be able to join us. And also, I have a new announcement today, and it was inspired by a couple of our members that wanted to be able to send videos of their performances. Well, in order to get feedback, I'm very happy to announce that we're offering vocal evaluations on our website. So if you're preparing for a new performance or an audition, or you're getting ready for something, or you're just a singer-songwriter and need some help, and you want to send me a video of your recording to get some feedback, go and visit me on my website to see how you can make that submission, okay? Alrighty, here we go. Getting really deep into it. I suppose, when we freak out, what we're kind of doing is cringing at the sound of our own voice. And I think for a lot of people, there's a thought of this isn't what everyone goes through. Like somehow you might be the only one that cringes at the sound of your own voice. But it is everybody. Absolutely everyone. There's just something that's very confrontational about it. When we face ourselves or we're listening back, there's a fear that some of our worst fears might be realized when we listen back to our own voice. So a lot of singers avoid it, unfortunately, at their own peril, simply because it can be such a learning tool when you're listening back to the sound of your own voice. It's rough. And we're going to get through it today, like how can we practice it so that it's not so emotionally tumultuous for us. And maybe, if we're lucky, we can get to a point where we actually feel reinforced in our relationship with our voice. Maybe we actually feel that we could appreciate our own voice, maybe enjoy listening to the sound of our own voice. So there are just two realities that I want to share with you guys that everybody goes through and that we have to accept as a part of just the process. One is that the vocal development is an intense process for everyone. For everyone. Absolutely everyone will have to work at it and manage it in the same way that, let's say, like a ballerina has to train and perfect. No one looks at athletes and says, oh yeah, they were just born that way, ready to compete in the NCAA day of birth. No, everybody knows that there's a process, and there's an intense process, and singing is no different. So vocal development is really intense for everyone, partly because it's so layered, so multi-layered, and it gets really complicated. Number two is you have to treat yourself with dignity. You have to. If you're going to be able to evaluate yourself and assess yourself and guide yourself through your artistic process, you've got to be decent to yourself. You've got to develop a sense of dignity to yourself. That means legitimately caring about yourself as if you were talking to a friend or offering advice to someone that was legitimately seeking it, who has talent and just needs a little bit of guidance. So you have to treat yourself. You got to meet yourself in that space, okay? So those are the two realities that just everyone faces. It's hard for everybody. And number two, we have to be decent and kind to ourselves. But the three heavy hitters today, when we talk about being able to actually stand it when we listen to ourselves, are: number one, set your expectations. Number two, self-talk. And number three, criteria. We're going to go into each one rather deeply. So I want you to, first and foremost, recall a time when you last heard yourself on a recording. Just recall that for a second. Try not to revisit the deeply emotionally scarring aspects of it. But did you set the right expectation before you went into it? Did you prepare yourself for success? Now, again, this is where we have to sort of be a really good manager for ourselves. We have to say, all right, we're going to sit down, we're going to go over a song. And as we go over this song, part of the difficulty is in making the right choice for a song. And this is where managing our expectations really fits into the mold. This is part and parcel for being able to, pick the perfect song for your voice. There's a criteria that flows through that. This is very similar. Oftentimes when people will cringe at their own voices, there's an element of sabotage there because their level of ability is at that intermediate level, maybe even beginner intermediate level, but they've picked a super advanced song. So you see how they've set themselves up to disappoint themselves because that variance of ability is just so wide. And so all they see when they sit down to actually observe is how they're falling short. Especially, let's say, if we were a beginner singer and we picked something really crazy, like Beyonce's Halo or Demi Lovato's Stone Cold, where there's a lot of runs and riffs and really complicated belting. It's essentially shooting yourself in the foot because that takes a long time to develop that agility, that specificity, that strength. And sometimes it can be such a crushing disappointment because we didn't set up the criteria. So the first thing that you want to do is sitting down, pick a song you can do well. Partly because if you're a singer that cringes at the sheer sound of your own voice, you don't want to be in your head too much about it, meaning the song's too hard and you're about to observe yourself in a minute, and so you're going to punish yourself. You don't want to do it. You don't want to be busy that much. Pick an easier song that you can do well, and then when you listen back to it, then you have a better chance of recognizing some things that you did really well, right? It's setting yourself up for that success. So also, sometimes singers will pick a artist whose voice is just too contrary to theirs, just too different from theirs. And there's that setup of that crushing disappointment of you want to be like an artist, but your voice is just extremely different. So when you listen back to it, there's cringe at how much you're having to work to try to force your voice to sound like another artist. The whole point when you're listening back to yourself is to develop your strengths, to develop your sound. Sometimes it's helpful to use other artists as a benchmark for standards, but the whole point is to get to know your voice. So start with expectations and write it down. Like, what are your expectations before you even get into it? Did I pick a good song for my voice type? Do I pick a song that I know, that I'm familiar with? Is it congruent with my voice, or does it feel like I'm having to work too hard? And that would be a good way to manage those expectations right from the jump. Number 2, this is where it gets everybody. This is the cringiest place to be, is in number 2. And that is in self-talk. And I think this is why a lot of people are like, nope, I'm out. I don't want to, nope, I'm fine. It felt fine when I sang the song. I don't want to evaluate my voice because it's just too crushing. It's too difficult because we're so triggered. We're triggered by the sound of our own voice. And there may be some legitimate reasons for it. Maybe somebody said something at a certain point. Maybe there was a public humiliation that happened. But I do think for most people, there's that validation of your deepest fear. Like, you already feel a certain way about yourself. And singing is the happy place, right? When you're singing, that's happy. That's something that feels so good. And then somehow when we listen back to it, there's a bursting of the bubble that happens there. And it's just so crushing. The disappointment is so crushing that it takes a long time to recover, if we recover at all. So it's with kid gloves that I talk about number 2, because we've all got our stuff. We've really all got our stuff. There's something in the sound of our own voices that is extremely difficult for us to accept. But just like when you're stepping in to a practice, you're going to record it. You've got to set that expectation. So before you listen back, you've got to reinforce a sort of relationship with some sort of nurturing force inside of yourself. That's like, okay, set ground rules. If you happen to have a critical voice, critical mind that is tyrannical, that's not going to help you at all. But you know it. You're very aware if you've got that tyrannical, critical mind, because you know that it feels punishing when you try to evaluate yourself. So if that's the case, set ground rules before you get going. So for example,